Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. First on the docket, the adoptive family of the missing West boys are receiving threats. Second, more teacher issues. Third, a Texas woman who will not be nominated for Mother of the Year. Fourth, another plot to get rid of a spouse, and this one involves a TV animal rights lawyer right here in Colorado. Fifth, an update on the missing mom that we talked about yesterday. We provide her cause of death. Sixth, a tragedy in Kansas. A judge determines there's no duty to warn in a Florida case. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Crime Talk. My name is Scott Reisch. Thanks for watching. Before we get to the docket, let's talk about what is going on this evening. That's right, it's Tuesday. That means it's the Tuesday Night Live. We'll go live, answer your questions about any of the cases you want to talk about. Here's a couple I think might be of interest to you. Obviously, one, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. And what does the completed autopsy of Tammy Daybell mean, if anything? Second, the Orrin and Orson West boys still missing. Third, the constitutional issues related to the impeachment trial. Not political issues, constitutional issues, and any other topics you want to talk about. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button as well as that little bell so that you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. And as always, leave me a comment below. We do read the comments. First on the docket today, the family of the missing toddlers. That's right, the adoptive family of Orrin and Orson West. They're receiving threats. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this particular case, the West boys were adopted by the West family. The boys were adopted in 2019, and they were reportedly last seen in the backyard of the family home in California. Last sighting was on December 23rd. The adoptive father, Trezell West, has told the police that he realized that he had left the back gate open. He ultimately panicked because he couldn't find the boys. He immediately went inside to search the house. His wife was in there. She did not have the boys. Now, the West family has 4 other children that are in adoptive care, and that is kind of normal procedure since these missing children took place under the parents' care. Once the boys were not found in the house, Trezell went around the neighborhood in his car looking for the boys. Nothing was found. They ultimately called the police shortly thereafter. The police have said there are no suspects. They do not know what happened to these boys. The reality of it is now people are starting to blame the family. And not only are they blaming the West adoptive parents, they're blaming the adoptive grandparents, and people are actually outside the homes of the adoptive grandparents demanding that the children be produced. Understand, this is a very emotional case. These are young children. They need to be found, but the police have not identified any suspects. So to go around protesting outside individuals' homes is probably not the best use of time, and it could probably be better spent trying to coordinate with the police and some sort of search around the area in which the children went missing. We'll talk about this case this evening when we go live. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think the adoptive parents should be a suspect, or do you think there's just not enough evidence at this point? Next on the docket, more teacher issues. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like teachers are getting in a lot of trouble these days. Well, a Florida middle school teacher had a 2-year sexual relationship with a female student that included secret encounters in her classroom. Doesn't this sound a little too familiar? So it is alleged that Haley Morgan Hallmark, a 35-year-old teacher and soccer coach at the C.W. Ruckle Middle School in Florida, when she was arrested on a charge of lewd and lascivious conduct with a student. That's right. The victim, who's now 17, told the investigators that she was in the 8th grade at the time when she and Hallmark began trading text messages. Needless to say, those text messages turned into photos and other graphic talk, and then it ultimately led to the interaction between the two. Apparently, the two became much closer, and she and Hallmark engaged in these acts at the middle school when she helped the educator and coach after school. Miss Hallmark remains held on a bond in the Okaloosa County Jail. I don't think Miss Hallmark will be teaching or being around anyone under the age of 18 anytime soon. Next on the docket, a mother who will not be receiving any nominations for the Mother of the Year award. Danette Williams, a Texas woman who was out on parole after being imprisoned for her role in the death of her infant son, is now being accused of leaving her newborn daughter in a toilet after giving birth. Williams is facing child endangerment charges after she allegedly gave birth to her newborn in the toilet and purposely did not seek medical care. Now, Williams, who's 34 years old, told officers that, hey, I didn't even know I was pregnant at the time that she gave birth at about 3 a.m. on September 3rd. Williams told police that she felt cramps and heard a plop in the toilet. Well, her boyfriend, a gentleman by the name of Christopher Hardman, discovered the newborn head down in the toilet and immediately called 911. Fortunately, the newborn was taken to the local hospital and is now in good condition. It is alleged that Williams' mother claims to have asked Williams if she was in fact pregnant a few days before the incident, and Williams said that she didn't know, but she might go to the doctor and receive a pregnancy test. However, police claim that they've discovered that Williams had applied for public assistance through the SNAP benefits program back in May before giving birth and had identified herself as pregnant and that she was going to be due in September. Now, what makes this case a little even more disturbing than the facts of the current case is Miss Williams. She's now on parole after serving 5 years in prison for the 2011 death of her infant son. In 2012, Williams was convicted of first-degree felony injury to a child by omission in the death of her 5-week-old son. An autopsy revealed that Williams' son, who was born premature, had suffered a broken neck, a brain hemorrhage, and a partially severed spinal cord, and he was ultimately left in a car seat for 11 hours with no medical attention. Williams' current attorney has said that she didn't think that there would be current charges right now if she didn't have her prior conviction. Williams' attorney believes that this is being blown out of proportion and that her client is not the hideous monster that the state is portraying her to be. Williams' attorney claims that they are simply out to present the truth. We'll see how the truth comes out in the future. Next on the docket, what is it with everyone trying to get rid of their spouse? Well, now we have another get rid of your spouse case right here in the state of Colorado, and it involves a TV animal rights lawyer. So a Colorado attorney by the name of Jennifer Edwards Emmy, she's 43. She has a law practice involving pet law. I can tell you, I've only known one attorney that's ever really made a living at pet law, and that was because, well, she had some pretty deep pockets from her father's business adventures. Well, needless to say, Miss Jennifer Emmy in this particular case has been able to make a living as well as an advocate for pets, and she has trained other lawyers on how to get into pet law. Usually that involves advocating that their pets are not abused or to set up trusts so that people can take care of their pets after they pass away. Well, it is alleged that Miss Emmy asked a worker at her Colorado ranch to, quote, take care of, end quote, her estranged husband's new lover, according to the affidavit. The ranch hand recorded a phone call in which Emmy asked if she knew anyone who could help get rid of the other woman. She allegedly remarked, nobody will miss her. After discussing that the hit could cost up to $100,000, Emmy allegedly said that money would not be a problem. The informant believed that she was serious. Investigators also alleged Emmy searched online on how to get rid of another woman for good. Some of the plots that were discussed were perhaps some sort of a car accident. So if both her spouse and the new girlfriend disappeared or were injured or killed, it would look like an accident. Miss Emmy now faces charges of solicitation of first-degree murder, 2 counts of retaliation against a witness or victim, and 3 counts of stalking. Now, Miss Emmy's attorney, an attorney by the name of Colin Brzee, who I know and is a very, very good attorney, has said, hey, I haven't seen all the evidence in the case, but obviously it raises some questions. Emmys were apparently going through a divorce because the husband ran off with the au pair, basically the nanny, who was help raising their children. Needless to say, when people are upset, they say lots of things. The issue in this particular case will simply be whether this was a real solicitation for hire, or was this someone that was simply just venting about her husband having an affair with the nanny. We'll follow this one closely since it's really close to home. Next on the docket, remember the case we talked about yesterday regarding the missing woman from Omaha, and her parents were rather well connected. One was the mayor, one was a state representative in Omaha. The original reports made it sound like Miss Jaden's husband was certainly a suspect. Thank goodness we stated that he was given the presumption of innocence and he was not seen as a target of interest. Well, that was a good thing, right? This is why we don't jump to conclusions unless we have the facts. Well, it turns out that the police say there doesn't appear to be any foul play whatsoever in Miss Jaden's disappearance. Apparently, she died from cold exposure. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why we don't speculate. Let's take a quick recess. Just like we try to say here, don't speculate, get the facts. Where are you going to get the facts about somebody? Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Now, next on the docket, a absolute tragedy of a case in Kansas. The officers involved said this is one of the saddest cases that they've actually seen in their 28 years in law enforcement. Wichita, Kansas police say that a 13-year-old girl, identified by her family as Brianna Ibarra, had stayed behind in the back seat of a Ford Escape that was parked, but the parents left the car running outside of a restaurant as other family members went in to grab the food. This took place shortly after noon on Saturday. Well, a man by the name of Kevin Palmer, also of Wichita, then allegedly jumped into the driver's seat of the vehicle and drove away with the girl inside. The girl attempted to exit the car as it was moving, but was caught in the seatbelt and then dragged outside of the vehicle. Palmer continued to drive and flee the scene for several miles. A witness who saw the situation called 911 and followed the SUV. Police say the driver stopped and then fled on foot, but was quickly arrested. Now, Mr. Palmer has several prior felony convictions, and he's being held in the Sedgwick County Jail there in Wichita on charges including first-degree murder, theft, and driving with a suspended or revoked license. His bond is currently set at $500,000. That is a tragedy. Our hearts go out to the family of Brianna Ibarra, and obviously we give Mr. Palmer the presumption of innocence. And we'll continue to follow that case just because it's such a tragedy, so senseless, and never needed to happen. All right, next on the docket, we've all heard of the Parkland shooting case, right? That's right, we all have. Who could forget? 17 people were killed in that senseless shooting. Nikolas Cruz, who's accused of committing those heinous crimes, is set to stand trial, and he has 17 counts of murder. He faces the death penalty if he is ultimately convicted. Well, what do people do when you can't get true justice? You go to the civil courtroom and try to sue. And in this particular case, the family of several of the victims attempted to sue the school district, particularly the Broward School District, saying that they should have done more to prevent this tragedy. A Florida court has ruled that the school district was not obligated to notify faculty, students, and students' parents about the suspected Parkland gunman's actions before the 2018 shooting that ultimately killed 17 people. The court noted in its opinion that the Broward School District cannot be held legally liable for failing to predict that the shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School may not have transpired had different steps been taken. The judge asserted that the school district had no knowledge of any threats made by Nikolas Cruz before the deadly shooting. The court noted that the Broward School District did not have custody over him. He was not a student in the system and had not been a student for years. In fact, he was refused access to the campus once he left school. This ruling will more than likely be appealed, and it will not sit well with the plaintiffs in the case and lots of members in the community. From a legal sense, it makes absolute sense. Why, you may ask? Well, our system of justice, both the criminal and the civil justice arena, hold people accountable for what is actually foreseeable, not what might happen if we all had a crystal ball. Say, for example, someone was involved in a terrible accident and it turned out the product was defective. You cannot predict that the injury caused by the product, you're not going to hold the user of the product responsible for that. Just like in a civil case, you're not going to hold someone responsible for something that was not reasonably foreseeable. That's what the negligence standards are, is it has to be reasonably foreseeable. And here the court said, although a tragedy, it's not reasonably foreseeable that Mr. Cruz was going to come back and commit the harm that he did. Let me know in the comments if you think it's the right decision. We'll see if the appellate courts reverse that decision, and we'll see if we ultimately have a trial. And finally today, the dumb criminal contestant of the day. Our dumb criminal contestant is a young woman by the name of Blakely Sands. She sought admittance into a bar the other night in Edmonds, Oklahoma, but she was turned away by the bouncer, and the bouncer did what he was supposed to do, confiscate the phony Texas ID that she was trying to use to get into the bar. Well, Miss Sands, knowing her rights, was demanding her ID back. Wrong move, Miss Sands, because when the police arrived, she identified herself as McCamey Queen. She said that she wanted her ID back and that it was in fact a legitimate ID. When the police ran the ID, they realized that it came back to a male that lived in Texas. Needless to say, Miss Sands was female, so guess what? Miss Sands was arrested, and now she's being charged with a felony. That's right. Why? Because it is illegal to assume the identity of someone else, even on a fake ID. It's also a felony to try to mislead the police as to your identity, and that's a felony. Attempting to influence a public official, as well as criminal impersonation for the ID itself. So, Miss Blakely Sands, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. Not only was it a bad idea to go drinking when you're underage, it's even a worse idea to use a fake ID. Someone should have warned you that you could get in real trouble with that fake ID. But don't worry, There's always a sunny side, and make lemonade out of life when it gives you lemons, Miss Sands, because if you are crowned our Dumb Criminal Contestant of the Day, you will receive a Crime Talk mug. That's right. We'll send it to you, and you can tell all your friends how you turned a bad situation into something great. Now, if you would like that merchandise without having to become a Dumb Criminal Contestant, simply hit the link below. There's some really cool stuff there. Whether you want something that says Crime Talk or Let's Talk About It or Lawyer, 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 which is the best advice anyone can give you when you are being contacted by the police. And if you've done something illegal, keep your mouth shut. All right, that's all we have for you today. Don't forget to join us tomorrow when we put up a new video. But more importantly, join us this evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, for our Crime Talk Live right here on both YouTube and Facebook. And then immediately after that, we will have our Patreon live. Please join us.